Hello and welcome to Millennial Minds. Today we actually have two guests on stage. I said today twice. Me, James
not
Smart.
guests, interviewers.
Interviewers, there you go. I'm quite nervous. And
I've done
Alex
it for a few
Goldson.
weeks, a little bit rusty, mate.
Alex, say hi to the camera.
Hello, how is everybody?
And we've actually got a very special episode for you today. We've got on the one, the only, Sam Coleman. I always mess up his name.
That's
Sam Coleman, who's most famously known for playing young Hodor in Game of Thrones and some other stuff which doesn't really compare to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it does. He's done some...
It's Game of Thrones, man. Game of fucking Thrones. So basically we want to start off this episode, before we introduce him, just to show you a quick clip of him sort of in action. So I'm going to get that for you really quickly, 2 seconds.
Not going to work. Hang on, we got to wait now, because...
That was the wrong clip. Sorry for that. We're going to have to change that. That was what we were watching earlier. We're doing the actual clip now. I swear. Just technical issue on our end. We'll rectify that immediately.
Hold the door! Hold the door!
There he is.
Hold the door! Hold the door!
Jake, you got to keep going. You got the
I
best
can't
bit,
show the whole episode.
Keep going,
mate.
man. No, let's few seconds. Look, we want us...
Hold the door!
a second, I think.
Hold the door! What's the matter? Hold the door!
Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door!
So I think we get the picture.
Yeah, and then basically you can see his amazing artistic sort of acting skills there. Sort
You
of
know
flailing
what
on the
it's all
ground,
about.
no speech,
Yeah.
but still.
It's a very heavy moment. It's a very pivotal moment of Hodor's life, I suppose. Sam, I'd quite like to ask you. Firstly, obviously, we know each other from school, so if anybody's wondering how the heck we managed to actually get you on the show, we kind of pulled a few strings because obviously good mates in school. So yeah, first I'd just like to ask, how did you manage to get this amazing role?
Well, I joined an agency when I was 18 because I'd been into acting quite a lot, and I thought, oh, I'll give a try at sort of going for some auditions and other stuff. And I was expecting to get a few like auditions to be like an extra on EastEnders or things like that, to walk past in a background of a film holding a book or something, as most actors do when they sort of start to progress through their career, as it were.
You thought, fuck it, jump straight in there.
Yeah, and I had a run of really sort of good auditions. I mean, the first one was for a film called Leatherface, which is the prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes,
and somehow
incredible.
I got that role, and that was my first ever proper like film job.
Okay. I thought
and
that
actually
came after.
Yeah, well, it came out after Game of Thrones, but I actually filmed it before, such as the nature of the industry. But I just got back from filming Leatherface, and I thought, that's it. That's me done for like 10 years. That's the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. Wow. I was reeling in the glory of just being able to do that, and how fortunate I was. And my agent rang me up and said, Sam, you've got an audition for Game of Thrones. And I thought, oh, amazing. I'm on a winning streak. But when I got there, I realised that the character was meant to be about 12, and all of the other people in the audition room were about 12.
Oh.
There was literally like a room full of 12-year-old chubby boys with all their mums and their chaperones. I was 18 at the time.
Right.
So I felt like a walrus at a tea party. I was sitting there like all these kids and their parents. But anyway, I went into the audition, and I think partly because I didn't think I was going to get it, because I was so convinced. I was like, why has my agent put me up for this? This is ridiculous. I'm going to look like a fool in front of one of the like biggest casting directors in the world. So I did the audition not thinking I was going to get it, and I think that might have been why I got the part, because I was a lot more relaxed. I wasn't so
everyone
nervous.
else, nervous 12-year-old boys.
Yeah. I mean, I also had the age advantage of, 6 years experience.
Yeah, I suppose so. But when you left our school, since I've last seen you, I didn't even know you showed much of an interest in acting. I knew you were kind of always sort of the performer, and it was hypnosis that we were sort of both of us quite interested in, if you can remember.
Yeah.
And then you kind of suddenly decided to go down this route. So when was it that the whole acting sort of kicked off for you? And when did you take it seriously?
Well, I mean, I'd always done sort of acting after school. I went to the Jacqueline Fox School of Dance and Performing Arts.
Oh yeah.
Over in Whirl. Shout out to Jackie Fox.
It's still going, by the way. I think
still going. It
yeah.
is. I follow them on Facebook.
Awesome.
Facebook
True
has
to your
reached
roots.
the West Country, which is good to know. They now have internet and colour television as well. Wow. Yeah. But I guess I've always had a flair for performance, as you say. It just, I think I wanted to be a TV historian for quite a while when I was in school.
You've got the voice for it.
Yeah, and then I think when I did my A-level medieval history, the first year of that, I realised, this is a lot of work, and there's a lot of facts and figures to remember. So maybe I'll just ditch the historian bit and just go into TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair enough. But I know you do also like to keep yourself well educated, and you've got a kind of like an eccentric manner to you, from what I seem to have noticed as well. And I know you're definitely engaged in politics as well. So there's definitely a lot about you, kind of thing. Would you say you've taken things from maybe some of the characters you've played, or would you say that actually maybe because you're an eccentric character, you can kind of easily mould yourself into different personas?
Oh, I'm really not sure. I certainly haven't taken much from the characters I've played, mainly because as of now, one of them's been a serial killer, the other's been a Satan worshipping black metal fan.
Right.
The other's been Hamlet, and then the other's been obviously a mute or dual Slavic stable boy from a fantasy. So I don't think I've taken much from any of them, really.
Makes sense.
That would be a weird person to get on the podcast if.
Not entertaining though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'd just be a bit weird.
But I think I guess I have that kind of vibe that's quite. I'm not your sort of Prince Charming or sort of pretty male sort of cliche that a lot of actors tend to be who get funneled through the system.
Yeah,
there's
a niche like look kind of thing for you. Do you know what I mean? And like you've definitely got a performance to you which is entirely different from the generic population. And would you like? I suppose acting. If you were going to get into acting, I'd think immediately you've either got to be like someone like Brad Pitt, or you've got to be just really different, and you've got kind of like a different flair about you. So.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say maybe that's what. Maybe that's why you're kind of picking up on these roles. Like you said, you've only been in it for like 6 to 10 years or something now. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you've already landed the most successful show of all time.
Yeah.
Yes, can't believe my luck.
Yeah, fair play. So yeah, what would you say? How come you think you've got these roles then?
Well, I think it is. I mean, obviously, I guess talent probably comes into it somewhere. I wouldn't consider myself a world-class actor, but I guess if I was totally rubbish, I wouldn't get cast in these things. I think you have to take some confidence in your ability if you sort of actually get cast. But I guess there's a smaller field of people I have to compete against for a role, I guess, because obviously there still are people. Acting is a great way to find out that you are not individual and you are not special. I've walked into many a casting room where there's been about 20, 30 other large, obese, fat, curly-haired white men with interesting facial expressions, and I started to question my life.
Oh no, they didn't all have the same TV historian accent as well, did they? The voice.
Well, I don't know. It's there's a lot of people out there who are very similar to you, who you will only meet if you sit in an audition room where they're casting your particular type of person.
Yeah.
How odd is that? I've never
That's
actually
so
thought about
weird,
that.
like a hall of mirrors,
Yeah.
just slightly different versions of yourself over and over.
Often
again.
slightly better versions.
Oh yeah.
Often you're like, oh, if only, that guy's been able to grow a beard. If only I could grow a beard. Oh,
How
you know.
are you at beard growing then, young Hodor? You should be relatively good at it.
Yeah.
Well, I've been trying for 22 years, and as of yet, it's not happened.
Not
but,
quite there. Oh well. Well, we know when you get to mid. What was it? How old's Hodor?
I don't know. It could be ancient. It could be hundreds of years old for all I know.
Yeah, I don't know how the mythology works. I don't know.
Do you know how old Hodor is?
No. I mean, there's a thing called Wikipedia. It might help.
There you go, Wikipedia. It's weird how Wikipedia does actually work. Like, it's just made by people who just write random stuff on the internet, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the mass majority of the time, it works.
Because
People
they
say...
filter well.
Say it again?
Because they filter it well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like YouTube where anyone can upload whatever they want. Like, you know.
Is it
shit.
not? I thought it was. I
No,
thought people
you
just
but
write
you
freely
can
on there.
you can write freely, but it gets taken off almost immediately by like a ton of people just like, I don't like this.
Yeah. Sam, do you remember Aaron Mitchell?
I do.
So yeah, so his name. So I can't remember what happened, but someone like pranked him on Wikipedia, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was something Jesus related, and just everything was like that said Jesus was like replaced with Aaron Mitchell. It was like it happens, and that was like there for a good week, Jake. So it can't.
I know it's like I don't work at Wikipedia. I just
Alright,
hear things.
Fair enough. Back to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
We want to know. Do you actually take an interest in Game of Thrones? Was it a role you've landed? Are you quite picky with your roles? So would you only watch something that you're interested in? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I am a massive fan of Game of Thrones. Funnily enough, I'd only started watching it about a month before the audition came up, because all of my friends had sort of said, Sam, this is a show you'll love. You like sort of history and medieval stuff, and you also lots of like good TV dramas. But I hadn't got into it for the very purpose that I was doing my A-levels, and I knew that if I got into this show, I would procrastinate, I wouldn't do my revision, and then I'd sort of fail badly at my A-levels. So I avoided watching the show completely. I completely blocked it out. And then I think it was a week, maybe 2 weeks before I did my A-levels, I decided to binge watch the show.
Oh, yeah.
And then after I'd failed my A-levels, I got a phone call from my agent. No. But I decided at the worst possible time to start watching it, and I binged seasons 1 through to 5. Because I think that's actually the best way to watch the show.
Wow.
It's just to get engulfed in the lore.
Yeah,
then I bought the
people
books.
I think get a bit distracted, don't they? They'll watch one series and then maybe like my girlfriend at the moment, the new series has come out, but she said, I'm not really feeling the hype for it anymore. You've kind of got to watch it all in one go to continue that hype, maybe.
Yeah, well, especially like this new season, like it's something like 2 years after the last one aired. So like people have moved on with their lives, and you suddenly have to get back in, unless you're one of these amazing people that's like always into the fan element of it, even outside of the show itself, and you read the books and you have a whole community, which I think has happened with Thrones a lot. You sort of forget who everyone is, and you suddenly have to go, oh, got to get back on this train.
Yeah, that's it.
Even though it's a great train to be on.
Yeah, fair enough. It's one train that I haven't quite joined on yet, and one Jake tried to join on, but he's not a fan. He's not a fan.
Right.
Oh.
I got to season 3, right? Binge watching it for like 4.5 days to get to season 3, and I had to do something else other than watch one particular show, just because it becomes your whole life if you spend watching 7 seasons of it back to back. That's like 2 weeks.
How long is an
nothing
episode?
else. Like
About an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Minimum.
Wow. Yeah. How many in a series?
13?
Usually 10.
10. That's
Okay.
it, yeah. But some of the newer ones have less, really, right?
Yes, season 7 has 7 episodes, and season 8, which is the final season this season, is only 6 episodes.
Ooh.
Okay.
See, I know my stuff.
Yeah,
fair enough.
that's it. Have you watched the most recent episode?
Yes, of course I have.
Yeah.
2 a.m. simulcast with America.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is dedication
That's
there.
the most annoying thing.
Got to be
isn't it?
done.
Has it lived up to expectations so far? First episode.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, and not just because I'm in it, it's a great show. But also I get sniped from the HBO guy that's just in that window there if I say anything bad.
The what?
He's gonna get assassinated if he says anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Behind the show.
There's a guy
Who's
from
the
HBO with a
HBO
sniper
guy?
rifle.
That's the channel that runs the
Yeah,
show.
I know it is, Jake. I'm not that
Okay.
ill-informed. I know what HBO are. They used to do the Ricky Gervais Show animation podcast. Put that up online.
Wow, that's
I know.
quite a...
That's all I know I'm for, to be honest. But yeah.
Westworld, Game of Thrones, every biggest TV series in the past 10 years. Oh, no, the Ricky Gervais podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, mate. That's what we tried to replicate this show on. Didn't
Yeah.
work, so we thought
Didn't
we'll
work.
copy Joe Rogan
Yeah.
instead.
Basically.
That's the way. So
It's like Ricky Gervais's podcast just full of Carl Pilkingtons and nobody else.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We love that though. We love that. Imagine if we could get Carl on the show. I mean, we've got Sam on the show. Let's not knock Sam.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I didn't realise Carl Pilkington was still alive.
What?
I thought he was dead. I kind of assumed he died.
No, I don't know. I don't know where you heard that one from.
Carl, mate, if you're out there and you are alive, do give us a call though. But I'm pretty sure you are dead.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
back to
enough.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Who's the HBO guy, or is that like confidential?
It's a fucking joke.
What? Oh right.
Dude,
Okay,
there's a there's a
I
there's a
thought
guy
you
in
were
the tree
serious.
outside my house.
I thought he was serious. I thought there actually was. Oh, see, good acting. Good acting.
There you go.
Any normal,
Or just-
I was going to say any normal
Yeah.
person couldn't have done it there, but we've got an actor who convinced me otherwise.
Yeah, I mean it's understandable. It's really believable that there's a guy sitting in a tree with a sniper rifle,
sniper
making sure I don't say bad
Oh.
things about Game of Thrones.
In an HBO executive
Wow.
suit.
Yeah, I know. Oh, blimey. All right. Anyway, so you do watch it. You are all up together with it. That's
Yeah.
good to hear. Yeah. What would you like? How would you sell us on it? Because we love Harry Potter. Oh, I do. Jake's a bit of a.
I like movies.
But
Books
that's,
trash.
people have said if you like that kind of mythical world, you'll like Game of Thrones. But I don't feel like I've got the time. So how would you convince me?
Well, the thing about Game of Thrones is it's completely revolutionised. I'm trying not to sound like an advert now.
No.
It's completely revolutionised the fantasy genre because whilst it has all of the elements of fantasy, it's
hang on.
dragons.
Jake, put the camera on you a sec. Let's see your expressions here because they are not pleasant.
Keep going.
It's got dragons. It's got kings and queens. It's got sort of royal feuds. It's got all of that sort of lovely political element of good sort of medieval dramas. It's got that mixed with the sort of Tolkien-esque gigantic battle scenes, the biggest battle scenes with the biggest budgets you have ever seen on television.
Yeah.
Mix that with sex and violence and very human stories and narratives. It creates something that has never been done before.
Yeah.
And obviously, a lot of people
I've never
will
seen
say,
tits and dragons before. So
"Well,
that's-
exactly."
Not on
And
dragons.
what more does the American audience want?
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, some would argue, some people, some, uneducated swines would argue that what you've just described there is Lord of the Rings, but with tits.
See, that's interesting. And obviously, Tolkien was a big inspiration of George R.R. Martin, who wrote the books which the show is based on. And there is a lot of Tolkienisms in the show, and I think that's fine. It's a legacy thing. You could say that take that or just the Beatles with sort of more sex appeal, but
Sure.
it doesn't make it any less good, I think. And also, I think that I was going to say something and I've forgotten what it was. So I'm pulling that face that one pulls when one's trying to think what he was going to say.
But no,
No, I've lost it.
I definitely agree that it doesn't take away from the show that someone's done it before because they've done something similar. Fantasy's a very traditional sort of art style or sort of genre. So yeah, I think the reason I would say the reason I think it's taken off was because it added more adult themes to
but not just-
medieval, which is like.
Yeah,
Would you
but
agree with
not just that. I think the fact that it's on television rather than in film means that it can expand on those stories. It's a lot slower moving than Lord of the Rings. It doesn't have to condense it all into 2 hours.
Yeah, I
It
completely
can expand
agree.
on it over 70, 80 plus hours of footage, which means you get those really nice human moments. And this is what I was going to say, which I forgot. If you're a Gryffindor, it has bravery and loyalty and fighting and a sense of right and wrong, and it has that really nice sort of justice feel to it. If you're a Slytherin, there's lots of back-chatting and manoeuvres and political sabotage and telling one person one thing and then doing another thing and outmaneuvering other people. It has lots of sort of ambition and trying to get to the top of the pack and keep hold of power. If you're a Ravenclaw like myself, there's lots of politics, there's lots of references to sort of medieval history and current politics and all sorts of complex family lineages which denote whether someone can or can't be king or can and cannot be called a certain name. And if you're a Hufflepuff, there are cute dragons, cute dogs, and lots of cute characters like the character I play. So there's something for everyone, I think.
Oh, that's well cute. So who chose you to be a Ravenclaw then? Is that your own personal?
It's on Pottermore, and
Pottermore, nice.
And so it is written.
Tell you what, there is a lot of stuff coming out on Pottermore at the moment, though. My mate said
it's too much.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling's going a little bit too far with the Pottermore. Don't know whether you've had enough of it, Sam, but she's churning it out.
Having said that, it's her thing. She can do what she wants.
Yeah, that is true. She can. She tried. What was the thing she tried to do a good few years back? Can you believe we're like a podcast, 2-3 viewers in, and we're like giving JK some
yeah.
Nice.
We get one Game of Thrones actor on, and suddenly we think
we're like, yeah. We think they're the fucking boys. So you've been on another podcast before, Sam. You were saying it was an American podcast across the seas. So that sounds impressive.
Yeah.
Do you have any information about that? How was it?
Let's not plug other podcasts.
Well, no.
Absolutely better show.
Competition, mate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Sorry.
I've done quite a few podcasts, but I think I've only done one live, which was more of like a reaction podcast. I think there was some sort of Game of Thrones related event happening somewhere, and they sort of wanted to react to it as it happened, and they got me on to talk about it. But I've done lots like this, just never live before, so I can say lots of atrocious things, and then people just edit them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not.
We edit it out here. Yeah.
No, not today. That's alright, you're not doing too bad, Sam. Said nothing particularly atrocious from what I'm aware of.
No.
I don't know. Yeah. Jake, have we got anybody commenting? Looks like we've had some.
Yeah, we've had a few commenters so far. We've had Smarty Nick asking, what would be your dream acting role?
Ooh, that's a good question. What would be my dream acting role? I'd love to explore. I don't know. Basically, it's anything that pays my rent, to be honest. But
Game of Thrones
I'm trying not to be
permanent cast.
I don't know. I'd like a job that allows me to explore some sort of creative, some stuff creatively, like being able to delve deep into certain emotions that are hard to tackle and examine my own life and connect that with another character. You know, a nice meaty role, and preferably one that's regular and thus secures a stable income which can pay my rent.
Yeah, a lot of people say they say when I wanted to get into acting when I was a kid, being the attention-seeking fellow that I am, I really wanted to get. I was like, yeah, whatever. As long as it, there's attention, I'm there.
Yeah.
And then sort of literally, I think it was like someone at the bank just said to me, "Yeah, you don't want to get into acting. You want a proper job." And then like I found out, okay, like that's what people say, isn't it? And I was like, oh right, okay, and that sort of put me off a little. Yeah, put me off a little bit. And it's just that whole idea of like jumping from like job to job, and it can be few and far between. Like it's a difficult one, and sometimes you might be waiting around for ages on like little to no money, just because they want like a specky blonde kid to like be on Home Alone 4 or whatever it is. I don't know.
No.
Mate, Home Alone 7 by now.
Well, yeah. They're not churning that.
There's only two Home Alones.
There you go.
There's only two.
There's 4.
No, there's only 2. The others don't count. There's only
The
2.
others don't count. Oh, okay.
It's Macaulay Culkin or Macaulay Nokin. That's.
I love it. I love it.
I'm going to go ahead and say on camera, 4's my favourite. Come at me. Don't at me.
Oh, and he's shot away there. He's shot away from that screen.
Immediately hide the comments.
Yeah, and hang on, right, yeah. So, is it, like, you don't need to go into any details, but if you are happy to ask, are there, like, is it difficult to sustain a career where you're at so far, or do you find it quite easy?
So where I am at the moment, I'm kind of on the tightrope between unstable and stable income. Where, I mean, obviously, I guess earlier you asked if I'm picky with roles. I think that's very much a sort of a rich man's game. But where I'm at the moment, I teach on Saturdays. I do conventions and things like that. So I have other forms of income, and I need those other forms of income to secure my rent and to secure all the bills I have to pay and everything. But obviously, at the same time, I am still earning some money from acting, and enough money that I'm qualified as a professional equity card holding actor, and I can, to some degree, ensure that I have money in my bank account. But it's not enough to live on solely, I would say, just yet. But it's getting there. You just have to keep pushing, because the more stuff you do, the more people see you, the more they decide they like you, the more you get cast in things. That's the way it works, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it takes time in, I guess in the acting industry as it does in any industry. If you want to go self-employed and you want to do something that you actually thoroughly enjoy, like I'm a personal trainer at the moment, I've just started up, so I've done that for about a month and a half, and man, I'm finding it difficult. It's very difficult. No one knows who you are, so you might go out there and try as hard as you can to convince people, and at the moment I'm doing class, like pretty much 5 classes a week, and no one's pretty much turning up to any because they don't even know who I am. Yeah, you turn up to like my personal training sessions with you, but that's because it's personal training. My classes, I'm getting nobody, and it's just a difficult one in whatever field you're in to start up, isn't it?
I guess acting is a self-employment thing, and it's just like any other self-employment, I guess, in that after auditions, people always say, "Oh, it's like completely going for a job interview and over again," but it's not really. It's like trying to pick up a client. The casting director or the film industry is your client, and you are the product. You're trying to sell you, as you do when you're a personal trainer. You're trying to sell my vision of. I've got to sell my vision of their character as the product that they want to buy instead of any other vacuum cleaner. And I think it's
just a vacuum cleaner now, Sam.
Yeah. But like, I guess the only difference is, whereas with like personal training and things like that, you can have a skill and you can be better at your skill than others, and that can pip you over the post. I think with acting, a lot of people have the same abilities. A lot of people, the skill level is pretty much the same. Yeah, you do have some people who are better actors or worse actors or better at acting certain things than others. But all in all, as long as you are either trained or experienced in acting, the casting directors could get to a point where they have 50 people who are all as good as each other for the role, and then it just comes down to personal preference. And that's I guess the hard bit about acting is sometimes you're not picked, or you are picked not because of your talent or your ability or your skill or anything you can control, but just because you don't look the same as another person, or they've chosen on the roll of a die to go with someone else.
Yeah, it is one of those difficult things where no matter how, like, there's a level where, like, obviously you can improve on yourself, but like you're saying, there's that element of luck, which again in any field, but maybe more so in acting, and it's superficial, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you find you have to go like on a regular? How regularly would you say you go to? What is it they call them when you go to, like, you'll kind of meet people, and like you said, you meet your kind of clients and they're going to hire you. How often do you go to those?
Well, castings or auditions, I think they're both called.
Yeah.
The average is usually about, well, it averages out about maybe one audition a week, maybe.
Okay.
That's not awful.
No, sometimes it could be like 3 a week. Sometimes you could have nothing for 2 months. But it averages out about one a week, I'd say. Sometimes they're face-to-face auditions or castings where you go along and you meet the director and the casting director, and you have to perform a scene for them. In other words, like showing them your skills, like a trial personal training session, I guess.
Yeah.
Other times it's a video. What they call a self tape. So you film yourself reading the lines. So I guess that would be like showing them your website. That's the equivalent. So it's. But I think the ratio to castings to jobs is a very harsh cliff.
Okay.
You might do 50 auditions and get one job.
Wow.
But the good thing is that one job then can sustain you for maybe a year or two, because
Wow.
if it's a good job, if it's in film and TV, the money is good.
Yeah.
So that's it. Rather than having to do loads and loads of little jobs, you get one big job. You're home dry for a good year or two, you know. But rent bills still got to be paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's all year round. If you get a few months of bad luck, that could be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stressful.
when I started teaching, it was because I had a whole year where I did not get a single job. I did one free film for a friend.
Yeah.
And I should have asked for money, but because it was a friend, I sort of said I'd do it for free.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I had nothing. And so I was like, I've run out of money now. I need to actually do a proper human job.
Mm.
So so I started teaching, and that sustained me until I got another acting job again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then, so again, it takes quite a long time, and it can be few and far between. Was the major roles you've been in, have they been of reasonable funding for you for a little while? Is that reasonable to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think I've been fortunate in that. Obviously, some people, they might get acting roles, but they're like a background character, or they're a secondary character, or they don't get paid that much. Which is usually the story for most people that work at the BBC, because they don't actually pay that well.
BBC don't pay well.
Well, unless you're Graham Norton, they don't. But I guess it's because they're funded by the taxpayer, so they don't have as much money to play with, which is kind of understandable. But like film jobs, without going into actual figures, I mean, Leatherface and Thrones, which I both did back in 2015, my first two ever jobs, the money that I got from those two jobs paid my rent for 3 years.
Wow. Wow. That's
But
good.
then I only got one, maybe two more film jobs since then in those 3 years. And the money obviously then ran out, I think, the year after that. So maybe not 3 years, maybe 2 years. But it lasts a long time. So, but it's few and far between.
You think once you'd hit one job or something like Game of Thrones, for example, or like you said, Leatherface, you think that the phone would be constantly ringing, being like, "Hey, we need this guy, we need this guy." But it's so difficult, isn't it, really, to progress in that industry?
Yeah, I mean, now in the past, a job like I did, I'm only in Game of Thrones for like 4 minutes, but like a job that I did that's like in Game of Thrones or whatever, your career would go wild. Everyone would want you, but because the industry is so saturated now, because of there's so many platforms. You've got YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, BBC, iPlayer, all of the things, as well as terrestrial TV and film. It's so much easier to make content, and so there's so much more content being made.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm in Game of Thrones, sure, but so is maybe 60% of the professional acting stock in the UK. There's so many characters, and if they're not in Game of Thrones, they're in Westworld or Vikings or something else. So it's
okay. Wow, that is a good point. When you look at it from that perspective, yeah, that's true. There's only so many actors out there, and all these big mass productions for however many series long and however many hours each episode is, you're gonna need characters. Do you know many other people around you who's maybe been in Game of Thrones or Westworld?
Well, I mean, locally certainly there's 3 actors locally, myself included, who have been in Game of Thrones.
Alex, write this down.
We got our next guest coming up.
Yeah, and then but then I mean, you go into London, which is like the hub of castings and acting, and that you can't walk more than 10 meters without meeting somebody who's been in a TV show of some description.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just because there's so many of them.
Wow, you don't think of that. Jake, do you want to ask? It looks like there's loads
tons more questions. Smarty Nick has written, is there any great camaraderie between actors on Game of Thrones?
Yes, so much. So I was really lucky that Game of Thrones was my second ever job, because I got to experience a really nice form of the television industry. Obviously, you hear stories about sort of nasty actors behind set and directors sitting on a chair shouting action, but actually in Game of Thrones, everyone was so lovely. And because I joined in season 6, they'd been going for 5 seasons, so they all knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
It was like a well-oiled machine. The crew knew where they were going. Everyone knew their place and sort of what they had to do in their job. So there wasn't too much stress. And so it was lovely. I walk in, everyone's really friendly. Hi, Sam, lovely to meet you, blah, blah, blah. The directors are friendly. They're there with you. They're telling you what to do. They're giving you advice on how they think you should do things. So it was a really lovely experience. And I think that, as well as just for the actors, that whole like community, family vibe that you get when you walk in, a massive, massive production with hundreds of crew members and hundreds of cast members, still feels like a small little boutique short film family, because it's just so well oiled, and so they cast good people, they hire good people in the crew. It's just a really lovely production to be a part of.
Were you nervous at all? Like obviously, I imagine you weren't nervous. It was Game of Thrones, but were you like nervous, or were you shitting yourself when it came to the point we had to do was quite a very physical scene?
Yeah, I mean it's quite a challenge for your second ever sort of professional film-esque role, where you're basically given a character that's not even your own, but is a character that somebody else has played for maybe 4 or 5 seasons, and done a lot of work on, and become a fan favourite character, and you're meant to come in and basically be the biggest part of their death scene, and sort of steal their moment, and
by the
not
way.
not mess it up. Well,
Yeah.
you've shown it already.
Yeah. You should have the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's quite a big responsibility, because like, if I'd messed that up, it would have been I would never have let that down, you know. But luckily, people enjoyed it, and luckily, people seem to like it. And I've got other jobs and things since then off the back of that, and it's been sort of a very fortunate thing to happen in my life. And that was when I was 18. I filmed that, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's so crazy to think that at 18, just that someone could be that
Like
famous, that in the spotlight at that age. Like that's probably quite good that. That it wasn't like a continuous walk. 'Cause imagine they go to people's head constantly.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like Daniel Radcliffe, I was literally watching a podcast with him the other day, and it's incredible how he explains it, because he's very articulate and he explains it so well, and you just think that such a grounded guy like that, or I find Daniel Radcliffe is, you wouldn't think that he'd go off the rails, but he did. What was it, in like film 5 and 6 or something? He was like off on anything, taking anything, and he had to get himself grounded again. But that's going to happen to any kind of child star. Did you find the Game of Thrones hype like get to your head at all? Does that happen easily?
I think I was lucky in the fact that, because I was only in it for a shorter period of time, I kind of got to dip in and then dip out again. Obviously, a lot of the actors who are in the show have been in it since season 1, like Maisie Williams, Sophie Turner, people like that. They've been in it since they were like 8, 9, 10, 11, similar to with Potter.
Yeah,
and so that show has been their life. Like they went through puberty, through their teenage years, being not only famous but being in that show, and so it's now a part of them. Like they've grown up in that show, so it's a really weird thing. And I think the industry is getting a lot better generally for child actors now. I think since Potter and since things before that as well, about making sure that those children are taken care of, that they're given time to actually grow up in the outside world, and not sort of contained in this little box where they become sort of dancing monkeys for 10 years or whatever. So I think it is getting better now. But it's a really interesting thing.
Yeah. Didn't it used to be the like the Disney child Disney stars?
God,
they were notorious for always going down the wrong route.
Got paid in cocaine.
Well, yeah, I mean,
What?
yeah,
They got paid
people
in
like
cocaine.
Judy Garland in Wizard of Oz. There was, she was, given copious amounts of drugs to get through that.
Wow, I didn't actually. Was that genuinely the case?
I was joking.
Well, it might be a rumor, but I've read it. I've read it about. I've seen
Oh,
documentaries
wow.
about it. But
Maybe that is true. You never know with these things. And then, like we were saying earlier, the Home Alone guy, like he got fucked up, didn't he?
Oh,
He
Macaulay
did.
Culkin,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's back on
Yeah.
the right tracks now, though. Taking him a few years.
It was still a bit weird, but yeah, sure.
Well, yeah.
got a
It's
podcast.
hardly-
Hey, hasn't every weirdo?
Yeah.
True.
Other questions?
Yes, a MG Bradders
Yeah.
said, did you get to work with or meet Max von Sydow? Sydow. It's a weird
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, so Max von Sydow, who played the Three-Eyed Raven in the show up until the scene where I'm in, really lovely guy. And obviously he was in the same scene as me, so of course I met him.
Okay.
We weren't isolated in separate booths, which was good.
Yeah.
And it was nice. He's like in his 80s. He's like a proper veteran of the acting scene. He'd just come off, I think, The Force Awakens, where he's in that briefly, or something like that. But he was like, he's a big established actor. So it was lovely to meet him. He was a lovely guy. Obviously, he's in his like 80s, so he wasn't necessarily the most dynamic person you've met. As you'd expect, the fact he's still going and still acting at that age is quite impressive, I think. But he's a lovely guy.
Nice.
Awesome.
What about any other favourite actors that you've met? Well-known favourite.
Oh yeah. Anyone else famous?
Well, actually, I meet more people doing comic conventions and signings and stuff than I do actually in film jobs. So I've met Jimmy V, who played R2D2.
Wow.
Steve Cardenas, who played the Red Power Ranger in the Mighty Morphin series.
What the shit? Shit?
I've met several of the Doctor Who's.
You haven't met the newest one?
No, I haven't met Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
I don't think she's done any conventions yet.
Opinions, Sam?
Oh, this
Jodie
again.
Whittaker.
I think she's doing a bloody good job. And I think
Jake, switch camera.
It's on you already, mate.
Nah.
the thing is, the thing about Doctor Who is it is meant for children. It is meant for children.
But
And what they do is they bring up those children from about 11 to about sort of 17, 18, and then they go back and they bring in the next wave of children.
Yeah.
And what always happens, and you can watch the whole of Doctor Who,
Yeah.
certainly in the new generation of Doctor Who from when they restarted it, you'll see that every time they go back and they make it a little bit more jollier and child friendly, a little bit less neaty, everyone who's like in their teenage years going into their 20s are suddenly like, this is awful, I hate it, blah 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 blah. And I think whichever writer's on the scene at the time always gets the flack for that. And then they sort of, but most writers sort of gets as dark as they can, possibly without making it like an 18. And then a new writer comes in and a new wave of children get inspired to. And I think Jodie Whittaker's inspired so many young girls and so many young people to, follow their dreams and be confident and pursue justice and good causes. So I think it's great.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. So Jake, put the camera on you.
No.
What do you think? What's your opinion?
What, me?
Yeah.
I have to admit.
Oh God.
I'll say something in defence of your argument. I'd say I went back and watched a lot of the old Doctor Who recently, and it is it's dog shit. It's absolutely terrible. But it had a lot more emotional depth than it does these days. These days it seems a bit more.
I don't know, That Rosa Parks episode was incredible. That was an incredible episode.
Yeah.
To be fair,
like there were moments that were okay. I actually thought, Jake, do you mind? Sorry, just 2 seconds. I actually thought in that Rosa Parks episode they were going to have a return of Captain Jack. I mean, I know he's long gone now, but I thought that could have been an awesome moment because obviously that guy was from like, what was it, the 51st century as well. I thought there was at least going to be some sort of reference there to time. Yeah, I think it was the 51st. I don't know. Maybe you're not as big of a Whovian as I am, but Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, back to Jake.
But yeah, I mean, what were we talking about actually?
Camera.
What do you mean? Cameras
There
really
you
want.
go.
Yeah, we need to go through some more questions. MG Bradders says, what were the sets like? Are they as impressive in real life as they are on the show?
Yeah, so that's another great thing about Game of Thrones, without sounding like an advert for it once again, is the sets were incredible. Like, because they had such a budget by season 6, when I joined in, and they have such a big budget, because they make so much money, so they can. They, like, from the outside, obviously, it just looks like a load of timber and wood and sort of plywood being held up by sort of joists, and it's very much a two-dimensional thing. But as soon as you walk into the set, first of all, they tend to make like surrounding sets, so it's like 360 degrees set. So wherever they point the camera, you're still in the world. They don't have to make half a set because they can afford to make a whole.
Do they make it
a whole
out
round
of
of
money
set.
at that point? Like, do they just stack piles of money up and paint it to look like woods?
Well, I mean, they could do because it's such a popular show, you know. Which is another argument as to why you're wrong for not liking it that much, because it's so popular. So you know, you know. But anyway,
Popular than Lord of the Rings.
Huh?
Which is not more popular than Lord of the Rings.
Did you say not more?
Yeah.
No.
Is it
it
not
is
as
more
popular as...
than Lord of the Rings.
Is it?
Oh,
I
it
mean,
is more.
One's a
It is
movie,
more.
but you know, it's hard to say.
Oh,
I mean, the
it's
best-selling
got...
movie and best-selling books of all time, and George R. R.
Well,
Martin's
the
like
Bible
7.
sold more, and that's so.
Actually, not true.
Is it not?
I don't think so. I don't believe so.
Oh.
Because of different
Well,
intonations.
because they're giving away for free now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a good point.
but yeah, what was I saying? The set. So so when I walked onto it's the Winterfell set, the castle set.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as you walk in, they've got fires burning, so it smells like the place. They got chickens running around, so it feels like you can hit the sound when the extras start doing their stuff and they're sort of hammering away at bits of. Oh, I just lost my microphone. When the extras are hammering away at bits of metal and they're sort of pretending to carry baskets of carrots back and forwards and doing whatever they do, it sounds and it feels, and to all intents and purposes, as an actor, you don't need to act as much because you're there. It's like walking into like a medieval festival, you know. It's or Renaissance fair if you're American. It's, you know, because they don't have any actual history. It's like walking into an actual like historical moment, and so all you got to do is click the on switch on your character and just read your lines right, and you're there. You know.
Do the cameras put you off in those sort of environments? Like, is it weird seeing like medieval fantasy? Fires burning, sparks everywhere, peasants dragging, you know, dirt and carrots through the street, and then a guy with a fucking, you know, phantom red camera just pointing in your head and a boom guy. Does that put you off at all?
Yeah, well, I think you learn very quickly to get over the fact that there's like 30 grown men and women in khaki shorts staring at you, and they're all wearing like khaki shorts, all of them. It's like a thing. If you want to be a film crew, you've got to wear shorts with pockets and sort of camouflage patterning. Anyway,
it's only it's seen by the cameras. It's camouflage everything.
Probably. But yeah, no, you learn to get over that pretty quick. And anyway, unless you're doing something like Miranda or Fleabag or House of Cards or anything where you actually have to look at the camera.
Yeah.
The aim as an actor is to pretend the camera's not there at all, and so you don't really look at it at all. That whole area where the camera and the crew are, you don't look there at all. You almost like make that a blind spot. So I guess it's not too bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Because you're kind of looking in the camera now, I suppose, a little bit. Hopefully you don't get used to doing that, and then you'll carry it over to your acting career, look in the camera every time.
Curse you, Millennial Minds, for ruining my career.
Wow. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Lots.
We got like 3 more. It's all from
Blimey.
MG Bradders.
Love him.
He says, did you understand the twist you were a part of during the filming of Game of Thrones? And if so, what was it like needing to keep that a secret for so long?
Ah, that's a good one.
Oh, it's a very good one. So I didn't fully understand what was happening until I watched the episode air.
Right.
And that was only because they they're very secretive on Game of Thrones because they have to be. And so my script, all of the bits that happen in the present or the future from my perspective, were like blacked out. All the lines that I didn't need to see. Because otherwise I could have taken a picture of my script, sent it to Vanity Fair, and it would have made a killing for their press, but would have ruined the show. So I only knew what I was doing and a brief description of why I was doing it. And they gave me enough that I could act the thing, but I didn't fully understand. I didn't know that Hodor was going to die in that scene. I didn't know the level of emotional rawness that was going to be there. And obviously when you see it live with the music playing and the colorization and the editing between the two scenes and all the special effects and everything, even though it was me, and obviously I was cringing a bit because I'm watching me, still watching it, it was far more emotional to watch the actual episode than when I was just rolling around on the floor shouting "Hold the door" for about 4 hours. You know,
it take like 4 hours.
Well, the thing about filming. People think an actor's life is easy, and in many ways it is, because we're not down a mine. There's no risk of death, and there's people running around after us asking us if we want a sandwich or whatever. So that's cool.
Nice.
But
people like working here.
But on the other hand, I think being an actor, you've got to work long hours, and actually a lot of those hours are sitting around doing nothing, and that sounds good, but it's not, because you have to sit in a tent in full costume. That's usually uncomfortable. I know I'm whinging now. I shouldn't be. I'm very privileged.
You're an actor. They do that.
You're sitting doing nothing all day and being paid for it. It's awful.
Yes, and being given sandwiches.
Constantly after sandwiches. Leave me alone.
But I mean, literally, you are paid to wait around for hours. You've got to be there. You get picked up at 6 a.m. You don't go back until maybe 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Whenever they finish filming, and you might film for like 4 hours of that. And the rest of the time you are sitting waiting for them to film another scene, or for them to turn the cameras around, or to rig a new piece of equipment up, or to change the set or whatever. But when you are actually filming, the other thing that a lot of people don't realise is obviously every time there's a new angle, they haven't just got 12 cameras pointing at you from different angles. Yeah. They have to stop what they're doing, reset all of the background actors, all of everyone else, move the camera around, change the sets so that there's no sort of evidence that the crew was standing there 10 minutes ago, get all the background actors back in place, tell them where they're all moving in the background to make sure it's consistent with the scene, get all the actors back in place, and then film the next angle. So, you know, that scene you see me in, I think there's about 5 angles that they shot, maybe 6. They used about 4 of them, I think.
Yeah.
And actually, the majority of that was one take, which I think was actually the first take I did. But there's little bits where, like, you're looking over my shoulder at another character while I'm convulsing on the ground. I had to lay on a school bench type thing for that, like a push-up bench, so that I was slightly higher up so they could get the angle right. Yeah, there's lots of weird things, but it takes a lot of setup. So actually, it does take a long time to do even a little scene.
Yeah, definitely. And no matter how much you plan, I suppose, even for a great big production like that, there are still things that you're going to have to work out. Like, I can't imagine that... did you say that, like, the bench or, like, a press... What was it you had to sit on? I can't imagine that was pre-planned.
No, that was I mean, I don't think it was pre-planned, but, like, that was... They have them about in case they need to change people's heights and stuff.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's just about... It's lining up the shot so that you see the person shot here and the person standing there, and just, if they can't move the camera, they just move this person up a bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easier than changing a whole shot or something. Just make them higher.
Yeah. Although the payoff for that whole day of filming was that final clip. They actually had a camera on a crane, so that they could have it like looking directly above me, and that's cool. That's cool. To lay there, convulsing on the ground, looking at this like camera on a crane, you think this is cool. This is cool.
Loving this.
You know.
Yeah. When you were actually acting then, what was it that was sort of going through your mind when you're like during that actual scene? If you didn't realise the gravitas of it, surely it's difficult to act the way you're meant to.
Yeah. So it's actually, there's a lot of technical thinking that goes into acting. People always, like, you always hear actors sometimes sort of say, "Oh, it's really about feeling the emotion of the scene," and it's all about like really connecting with the character. But at the end of the day, it's not us as actors who are meant to feel the emotions. It's you, the audience.
That's a good shout.
And
Yeah.
I swear Jared
if
letter went wrong.
Yeah, well, that's
If-
what Kubrick said
Yeah.
when he was. I can't remember what movie it was. It was one of the most famous ones where he said, "When in doubt, stop acting. The audience will do it for you." And he famously would just yell from the silence where they were filming, "Stop fucking acting! You're ruining the take. Just stand there."
Yeah, and I think it can sometimes be indulgent of an actor to sort of, if I'm crying in a scene, to really get upset and to really, it's one way to do it, and some people do, you know, to really think about a traumatic moment from my childhood and get upset over that, because then I'm not performing for the audience. I'm making myself upset rather than making you upset. Whereas if I think about it from a technical aspect of what can I do with my face, what can I do with my body, what can I do in relation to the camera angle, it becomes a lot more fulfilling your end, even if it's not so fulfilling my end. So actually that scene was a very technical. I had to remember how to fall safely, where to put my arms, how much to convulse, what sort of facial expression. So there's a lot of technical things, and obviously I'm shouting "hold the door" at the top of my lungs for about however many hours I did that for. So there's a degree to where if you keep doing that for long enough, your brain stops thinking at all,
Yeah.
because all of your blood is going into shouting "hold the door" at the top of your lungs.
Yeah.
Imagine after a while you probably were just sort of convulsing without thinking, like muscle memory. So you don't have to
and
focus on that.
I was thinking, oh, I wonder what's for dinner tonight. Oh, maybe we should go to that place next to the hotel. Oh, I'm still
That's
shouting
great.
"hold the door!" Right? Yeah.
That's great.
On the
Sam
taxi
gets a role
home.
on Game of Thrones. He's like, "What am I doing tonight then?"
Yeah.
Just love the idea of you trying to speak, like, to thank everyone for having you on the show, and you just go up to them and go, "Hold the door! Hold the door!"
Yeah. Yeah.
Surely you had that in your head for months afterwards. Hold the door. Hold the door. Any more questions before we?
Yes,
end the show?
we've got two more, both from MG Bradders.
Love it. Love him.
He says, also, what was it like doing a feature-length film?
So I've done several feature-length films now. I've done Leatherface. I did one called Lords of Chaos. I did one called Fistful of Lead.
So how is that different?
Feature. It's interesting because feature films, all the ones I've done, have been filmed in a very short space of time.
Okay.
So like Leatherface, we filmed maybe for a month and a half. And it's very tight. Like every single day, we're working from morning till night. We're filming every single scene. Bish bash bosh, done. End of. Because with a film, it's like a pop-up shop. You're there, and then you disappear as if you were never ever there. All those people that once worked on that film job, like all the crew, the cast, everything else, they no longer have a job. They no longer have a reason to exist. Their business is finished in that particular time frame. Whereas with a TV show, like Game of Thrones, they have a studio that is literally the Game of Thrones studio, and they have all the set, and they can keep it there for a year until the next time they film there. So it's a lot more relaxed. So I think feature film, you turn up, you do the thing, you leave, and then it no longer exists, and you wait for the film to come out.
Yeah.
So it's a very weird experience.
Yeah, that is weird. It's almost hard to like form stable relationships as well. I can imagine in that it's almost like your life's constantly changing.
Yeah, well, I mean, like some of my best friends are friends that I've made on doing a film job, because you're there together for a month in close proximity, and as I think Tim Minchin said, the drama of shared experience and a kind of synergy or some sort of symbiotic thing creates sort of friendship and creates that sort of bond. So being thrust into this thing for a month where you're intensively together for a long periods of time creates amazing friendships. But you're there for a month, and then half of my friends I've not seen for a couple of years now,
Wow.
because we're no longer filming that film. And so unless you meet up outside of it,
Yeah.
it's a really weird thing.
It's difficult, and then you're all across the country as well. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine at that point you're just hoping for a sequel just so you can have an excuse to see your friends.
Yeah.
You're like,
absolutely.
come on, let's get a sequel out of this. I miss him.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear about cast getting emotional on their last day of set and stuff. And that's not because the film's over or because their character's finished necessarily. Sometimes it's just because they're not going to see these people that they've been like cohabiting with forever again,
That's what they talk about on all the Harry Potter extras. They're all just like, look, the cast and crew they're like their family now.
Yeah.
Literally grew up with
Co-workers.
some of them.
Yeah, yeah. Co-workers, peer, like just the closest you can get. Family. Don't know what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
Just going off on a random,
Last question.
random things.
Last question. MG Bradders, I'd like to know, what was it like meeting Bran? Or Brain? Bran.
I presume he means Isaac Hempstead Wright, who plays the character Bran, rather than meeting the character Bran, because
Let's assume.
meeting a character is hard to do. But yeah, Isaac was a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, nice. That's good to hear. Yeah,
Concise.
fair enough. Shall we? We're gonna sort of head off to head towards an end of the show now. Could you give us a very brief, like, other interests and other things you do? Because I know you kind of do take a political stance as well. I know you are very political, so
Yeah.
What's going on in your political life?
Well, so as well as acting, I'm running for council at the moment.
Wow.
I'm the Labour Party candidate for Sidley Ward in Bexham and Battle constituency.
Woo.
Trying to change my village and represent the people I live with and my neighbours and everything, and give them a better life. We've been on Tory rule for 20 years, and things are not going well. Aside from that, I'm currently planning a mentalism show, which I'm doing at the Hastings Fringe in the summer.
Awesome.
So you are still into all the mentalism?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a passion of mine. I've sort of just never found the avenue to pursue it. But now I'm an adult and I have a stable-ish job teaching and acting, and I have enough income that I know I can survive. I can now start thinking about doing stuff with my other hobbies. So I'm doing a mentalism show. I've started doing some sort of stand-up comedy and some musical comedy and things. I do all sorts. So watch out for me.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're not the next
Many
Prime
Pie
Minister, then
is
you'll be
also
the
in my
next
life.
Darren Brown.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the
yeah,
hope.
like a fat eccentric Darren Brown. Yeah.
Hey, who's also PM?
Who's also the Prime Minister. All of them together.
Oh, I would
Yes,
never become an
it's-
MP. That's far too much for me.
Fair enough.
Like Arnold
Don't blame me
Schwarzenegger. You know, he's like the councillor of California.
there. What is he? Yeah,
Everyone's
what is
been
he?
the governor of California.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just palm off all his attributes to that. Everyone's been a bodybuilder at some point.
Bodybuilder,
Everyone's
actor.
been, what is he,
well,
Russian? Is he Russian? I don't even know.
He's not Russian.
He's
No.
German, I think.
Oh, of course he's German, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course he's German.
Everyone's been Terminator,
German at some
Terminator.
point. Yeah, that's it. Right, thank you very much, Sam. Thank you for coming
Pleasure.
on. It's been awesome chatting to you. Sorry we couldn't pay the 100-odd fee to train you down here, man. But that's yeah, it's been really good as it is.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Cool. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.